Hey everybody, welcome back to the Cody Leach podcast. Monday again, and we got a ton of news to talk about today. So right off the bat, the biggest thing that I wanted to talk about, just because this is the most aggravating story that I keep seeing pop up and pop up and pop up and won't go away. The Friday the 13th upcoming film that they've been tossing around for years is now eyeing Breck Eisner for directing duties. He's the one that directed The Last Witch Hunter and The Crazies, which The Crazies I'm a really big fan of. Never bothered with The Last Witch Hunter. Producer Brad Fuller is saying that the script is going to be written by The Prisoners writer Aaron Guzikowski. The script is complete, and it's going to be an origin story for Jason that we haven't seen before, and it's going to feature Jason's parents, Pamela and Elias, and show how Jason became Jason. Okay, so the Friday the 13th remake came out, I want to say back in like 2009, 2010, something like that. And it wasn't a perfect movie, but it was entertaining. They did a lot of things right. I liked the leaner, meaner, faster version of Jason. I liked that they kind of crammed the story of the first 4 movies into one movie, because you can do that. I mean, Friday the 13th is not a movie that is known for story, which I'm going to elaborate on in a second. The kills weren't the most creative in the world. There was a couple of good ones, but for the most part, it was a pretty good remake. And it was really financially successful, so it always baffled me why it's been taking them so long to get another Friday the 13th out there. Now, I've never been a Friday the 13th fanatic. I like Jason, but I was always more of a Freddy, Chucky, Michael Myers kind of guy. You know, Friday the 13th is the most basic of the slasher movies. That being said, why in God's name do we need an origin for Jason? He's a fucking zombie that walks through the woods carrying a machete that kills horny teenagers. Why do we need to get into the psychological creation of a zombie? Why do we need to do what Rob Zombie did with Halloween to Jason? Why do we need to find out that his parents were abusive or didn't hug him enough or, you know, took away his chocolate milk or whatever the hell they're going to go with this to make Jason a psycho? You don't need all that bullshit. Friday the 13th is the most basic, easy to write movie in the fucking world. You literally, all you have to do is get 3 things right. You have to make Jason look good, you have to make the teenagers look good, and you have to make the kills look good. As long as you have those 3 things, you can wrap whatever bullshit storyline you want to put around it, and it'll be a good Friday the 13th movie. You know, you could do something like the Camp Crystal Lake has been closed ever since, you know, I don't know if they're going to tie it to the remake or just have it stand on its own. It's been closed for years, since all the murders. And you could have it where somebody comes in and tries to make this brand new camp, kind of like Jurassic World. You know, they try to make this big badass new camp, and it gets flooded with all these new campers, and, you know, everybody's loving it, and everybody's forgotten about the old Camp Crystal Lake murders. And then things start happening. You could have like scenes where the camp counselors come across some of the old stuff that's been stuffed away, the signs that say Camp Crystal Lake, because obviously they'd name it something else. Like, you could do something like that, and all you have to do is just make sure that the kills are creative. That's really the only thing that they need to do if they want to do something new with Jason, is make sure that the kills are creative. Make sure that there's something unique and crazy that we haven't seen before. I hate this idea. I hate this origin story bullshit. I don't know why Hollywood doesn't get the fact that we do not want origin stories for these horror classic characters. It didn't work for Halloween. It didn't work for Freddy. It's not going to work for Jason. Jason, least of all, has story that you can pull out of that. So, I hate this idea. I hope they scrap this bullshit. You know, even though the guy who's writing Prisoners is doing this, I don't think Prisoners was a real written movie. It was a well-directed movie. So, I don't know. I hate this fucking idea. But Friday the 13th, we still have some traction on a new movie. We got a script rewrite by Carlton Cuse for the Rampage movie. It's currently under review by New Line. So for those that didn't know, Dwayne Johnson, or The Rock, has been attached to star in this Rampage movie. Now, Rampage is an old video game. It's like an arcade game that has a gorilla, like a giant lizard, and a wolf. And you're basically like Godzilla monsters, and you're just trying to smash these buildings. It's like an old arcade game. I have no fucking idea what they're trying to do as far as bringing that into a movie and putting a story to that. But, you know, they're still trying to do it, so still getting some movement on that. Again with Carlton Cuse. Carlton Cuse and Graham Rowland are moving forward with a Jack Ryan series for Amazon. It's set to star John Krasinski, who's famous for The Office, and he just kind of broke through with 13 Hours, and it's going to introduce a comedic element to the character. Now, I have not seen all the Jack Ryan movies. It's been played by multiple actors. It was played by Alec Baldwin. It was played by Harrison Ford, and probably the most popular of the movies that they've done. Ben Affleck played it one time, and they had that reboot they tried to do with Chris Pine a couple years ago, which wasn't the best movie in the world. So now they're trying to redo it yet again and make it a hour-long drama series for Amazon. So, like I said, I haven't seen all of them. I'm not really a Jack Ryan fanatic, so I don't know how I feel about that. John Krasinski is an interesting choice. He did good in 13 Hours, so he could bring something new to it. As far as introducing a comedic element, I don't know how thick the comedy is going to be. If it's going to be something like James Bond, where he just has a few one-liners here and there, or if it's going to be like, Kingsman: The Secret Service, where it's mostly jokes. I don't know. But if you're a Jack Ryan fanatic, we have yet another reboot with yet another star. The Chronicles of Narnia: The Silver Chair is finally moving forward at Sony. It's going to serve as a reboot for the series with new characters, new directors, and a new team. The last film was back in 2010. I have not seen any of these movies. I know they're very popular. They had The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and then I think in 2008 they had Prince Caspian. I don't remember what the third one was, but very popular movies. I don't know if it was the quality of the third one or if it was just that it was never a very popular or very financially successful movie, or maybe it wasn't worth the budget. I'm not sure. But for those of you who have been clamoring for some more Narnia, they got one on the way. Now, I don't know. I haven't read the books, so I don't know if it makes sense for them to have new characters and everything like that. I don't know if maybe that book has new characters or if they're just going to recast everybody. I'm not exactly sure. But it looks like if you do have some ties to the first three movies, this is going to be something completely different. American Horror Story Season 6 will not reveal its theme until the very first episode. So, for those of you who are American Horror Story fanatics, usually within a month or so of the previous season ending, they announce what the following season is going to be. The first season was Murder House, then they had The Asylum, then they had Coven, and then they had Freak Show, and most recently Hotel. And they released a lot of teasers for this, and they're very cryptic. They all have different themes. They're all showing different clues, and apparently they're all being released to misdirect the fans and keep them guessing. According to the reports that I'm reading, only one of these teasers is really giving you hints of what is to come. The rest of them are just misdirection. So it's an interesting move. I'm not an American Horror Story fan. I absolutely loved the first season. It was a chore getting through the second season, and I completely hated the third season. Gave the fourth season a shot, wasn't impressed. Stopped watching it after maybe 3 or 4 episodes. Started watching Hotel, wasn't impressed. Stopped watching it after maybe 3 episodes. So I'm not really a fan. However, I do think it's an interesting move to keep people guessing and not really reveal your cards until the first episode. So, interesting little piece of news. If you're an American Horror Story fan, get ready to be surprised when the premiere shows. Dana Walden and David Madden from Fox have said that they are working hard to get another season of The X-Files out soon. So, they had a little mini-series, basically, I think it was 5 or 6 episodes, like a little reboot event of The X-Files a couple of months ago. And I have not watched it. I like the X-Files. I grew up watching episodes here and there. I've seen the movies. I own the collector's set that has all the seasons, so I really need, whenever I get time, to start catching up. But that's a lot of fucking TV to get caught up on. But from what I've heard, there was a lot of mixed reception to this little 6-episode revival. They're saying that they acknowledge the criticism of the revival, and a new season would not have the burden of resetting the series, filling in the story gaps from the however many years it took to get this series out, explaining where the characters have been, all that kind of stuff. So if they don't have the burden of having to do all that, they're saying, okay, when we come back for another season, we're gonna give you guys something better, because we don't have all that baggage that we have to carry with us. We can just continue on and tell good stories. So I know there's a lot of X-Files fans out there, so get excited for some more. The Wrap is reporting that the main villain in the upcoming James Wan-directed Aquaman will be Black Manta. I'm not 100% familiar with Aquaman. I haven't read any of his comics, but from what I'm reading, Black Manta is Aquaman's arch enemy. Now, the debate that I'm having, And you guys can look forward to me having this debate with Anthony Arviso in our first episode of Alter Egos, which will be released this Friday. I was asking him basically, do you think that it's too soon? Do you think that using a superhero's arch enemy in their first standalone movie is blowing your wad? I thought it was. Anthony had some very good arguments for why it isn't. So that's the only thing that I'm kind of up in the air about, but I'm very excited about James Wan's directing Aquaman. I love James Wan. I think he's going to bring something really unique to this universe and to Aquaman as long as he is allowed to direct the movie he wants to direct. But we'll have to see when Aquaman comes out. And like I said, look forward to our first episode of Alter Egos releasing this Friday. Carrie-Anne Moss is set to appear in Iron Fist series as Jerry Hogarth. So this is a character that was introduced in Jessica Jones Season 1, and she had a small appearance in Daredevil Season 2. So it seems like she's going to be one of the main characters who is going to be kind of the connective tissue for all these Netflix series, kind of like the Nick Fury. The only other character that does this is Rosario Dawson, who's also been in the Daredevil series. I think she was in Jessica Jones. Don't quote me on it. And she's going to appear in Luke Cage because I showed her in the trailer. So pretty cool stuff that they're making a lot of effort to connect all these stories together. Speaking of Netflix, there's rumors swirling that Netflix has filmed 4 pilots to be considered for a full series order. The rumored shows is Blade, Ghost Rider, Moon Knight, and White Tiger. Now, I am not familiar with White Tiger whatsoever. I'm somewhat familiar with Moon Knight, and I know Blade and Ghost Rider pretty well. I would love for this news to be true. However, in the Twitter age that we're in, I find it very hard to believe that somebody would actually be casted and they would have filmed an entire first episode for a series like this, especially with how high-profile superhero shows and Netflix shows are right now, and nobody would know about it. There would be no leaked pictures, nothing like that. So I don't think these rumors hold any water, but I think it brings interesting conversation. I think Blade would make for a phenomenal Netflix series. I love the movies. I think they need to bring Blade in as soon as possible. Whether or not Wesley Snipes would come back for it, it'll be great regardless. Ghost Rider is a character that I've always been intrigued by, but the movies are fucking horrible, at least to me. So I've yet to be impressed by anything Ghost Rider, but I want to be, because he seems like a really cool character. Now, they've already announced that in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3 or 4, whatever they're getting ready to start, Ghost Rider, to some degree, is going to be in that series. So I don't know. That also makes me doubt these rumors. I don't know if Netflix would be able to do whatever they want with Ghost Rider while he's on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or if there'd be some kind of a clause against that. But pretty interesting rumors regardless. So hopefully we'll see some more shows getting announced before long. Patrick Stewart believes that the currently untitled Wolverine 3 will be his last appearance as Charles Xavier. Stewart said that there's always the possibility of his return, as in sci-fi and fantasy you can never say never. But he also said that this movie will be seeing a very different Professor X, and he feels it will be his last time playing the character. They're targeting an R-rated movie, from what I can tell, for Wolverine 3. It's set to come out March 3rd, 2017. From what we can gather, it's going to be some form of the Old Man Logan storyline. It's not going to be able to follow the book 100% because there's a lot of characters they can't use. There's a lot of directions that they're not going to be able to go. Old Man Logan is very, very unique. It's like a Mad Max post-apocalyptic revenge tale with Wolverine. So to some degree, they're going to have that storyline, but I don't know. But I'm excited that Patrick Stewart's coming back. I think it's going to be a very bittersweet send-off for Patrick Stewart and for Hugh Jackman, assuming that they actually both don't come back anymore. I just really hope the movie's good. So Wolverine 3, March 3rd, 2017. Can't wait to see what they're going to be doing with that. A sequel to Ghostbusters, as I like to call it, is looking less and less likely as the movie is tracking to lose Sony over $70 million. So me and Holly have a review up for the Ghostbusters remake. It was a split review. She loved it. I didn't care for it very much. But the movie has not been making Sony the money that they thought it was going to make. All the producers and the reps were coming out after the movie was starting to get some mixed to somewhat positive reviews, which they were expecting the reviews to be over the moon, saying that, we're in love with these new Ghostbusters characters and we're fast tracking a sequel and Ghostbusters is alive again. Well, now they're kind of holding their excitement, I guess, because now they're asking after the money's actually not coming in and they're starting to see a huge drop off with the movie and they know they're not going to make their money back. Whenever producers or reps at Sony are asked about it, they're pretty much just talking about their excitement and their focus for the animated Ghostbusters series, Ecto Force. So that tells me they're probably not going to move forward with a sequel, at least with these characters. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to do another reboot before long with some male comedians, which is going to be a spark for controversy. Being that this one had so much controversy with it, with people saying, "Oh, if you don't like it, you're just a sexist," and all that other bullshit. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Ghostbusters coming out with a Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill and Paul Rudd and guys like that. But it looks like if you're a huge fan of the Ghostbusters reboot with Melissa McCarthy, then you might not be getting a sequel. Continuing on this story somewhat, Anne Hathaway, Rihanna, Helena Bonham Carter, Mindy Kaling, and Awkwafina are in final negotiations to join Sandra Bullock and Cate Blanchett in Ocean's 8. So Ocean's 8 is a female-led reboot / sequel / I'm not sure what to call it, of the Ocean series, where Sandra Bullock is going to be playing, I guess, some form of relative to Danny Ocean, played by George Clooney in the most recent movies. And so this is going to be like a female-led reboot of Ocean's 11. Now, Jennifer Lawrence is also rumored. It's going to be directed by Gary Ross. And as much as this could end up being something funny or something cool to see, it kind of sparks a topic for debate with me. I'm all for change. I'm all for more diversity. I'm all for more female-led movies. However, I think that the way that Hollywood is going about it, they're going about it the complete wrong way. Because it seems like every major series that they're trying to launch with a female-led cast is just a gender swap reboot of what men have already done. I would like to see them do something original. I would love to see Sandra Bullock and Cate Blanchett and Anne Hathaway and Helena Bonham Carter and all these actresses do something different. You can do an Ocean's 11 style movie, but don't call it Ocean's 8. Don't try to tie it to the movies and make it a reboot, because all you're going to be doing is causing problems for yourself, because people are going to undoubtedly compare it to the Ocean's 11 series with George Clooney and Brad Pitt. And it doesn't really do them any favors as far as standing on their own. All it makes it look like is that females are trying to do something that men already did and say that they can do it better, instead of just doing something new and unique and have it be awesome. So I kind of get aggravated seeing all these gender swap reboots, but I know I'm not alone in that, but I'm also not in the majority. So Ocean's 8, something interesting to look out for. Looks like it's going to be a pretty stacked cast. Miles Teller told Joe Blow Films that he would be up for returning to Fantastic Four. Now, for anybody that saw that Fan 4-stick piece of shit that came out earlier this year, I have no idea why they keep talking about doing a sequel to this. Simon Kinberg was talking about it, now Miles Teller was talking about it. I do not see them being that stupid returning to that series. Even if they, and this is another topic that you can hear us elaborate on in Alter Egos, that movie was so horrible and was so notoriously bad that even if they had a phenomenal sequel, a phenomenal script, a phenomenal director, they were going to take all the hands off and let them direct a movie and not, fiddle with it. There's no way they can get rid of the stink of that first movie. It would take them coming out and making mediocre money and getting like a kind of a cult following later on, like maybe something along the lines of the way Dredd did, in order to really turn that series around for a possible third movie. But Fantastic Four just has such a stink on it with what Fox has done with it so far that they just need to either stop making Fantastic Four movies or give it back to Marvel. So yeah, I don't want to see this. But his actual quote just said, "Yeah, for sure, I love the cast. I love the characters. I think it's such an interesting dynamic. I love how much they really need to rely on each other. This Avengers thing, they've kind of created their own Fantastic Four in a way, Marvel's first family. Their powers can't just exist on their own. You need Thor to do this, the Hulk to do this thing. So yeah, absolutely, I would do another one." Not really anything concrete. I think he's just trying to be respectful to the property. Like I said, Simon Kinberg also expressed interest in a sequel, citing that the great cast is the main reason he wants to continue forward. But I hope they just let that thing die. Jason Momoa may be casted in the Crow remake. So he posted an Instagram pic with Alex Proyas, who's the guy who's supposed to be directing this. expressing excitement over them collaborating on a project. So he kept kind of cryptic about it. He didn't say anything specifically about The Crow. However, that's what Alex Proyas has been trying to get off the ground forever, so everybody's just assuming that that's what he's talking about. Now, The Crow remake is something that has been going through absolute fucking hell trying to get off the ground. They've changed directors, they've changed writers, they've changed stars more times than I can count. I'm not looking forward to this. I love the original Crow. I haven't seen any of the sequels, but there's been like 4 or 5 of them. I think The Crow kind of just has a little bit of a dark kind of a stain on it with what happened to Brandon Lee. I think it should be left alone, at least for now. Eventually, I think we'll see a Crow remake, but it's been done so many times. It's a very simple story of revenge, and they redid the story basically in every single sequel. The sequel was not, the same character from the original Crow. It was just different guys with the same situation. So they've already remade that movie essentially 4 or 5 times. So I don't see them doing anything new or unique with it nowadays aside from just adding a bigger budget to it. And I don't think Jason Momoa fits the cast. Unless they're going to do somebody completely different. But if they're sticking to the character that Brandon Lee played in the original, that's not, who's from the comics, that's not Jason Momoa. It's a kind of a leaner rock star look to him. Jason Momoa is a fucking Hulk. So, I don't know about that. Take that casting with a grain of salt if it even is the Crow remake. Jason Momoa is one of those guys. I think he's excited to be attached to anything nowadays. So, I appreciate his enthusiasm if that is what he's kind of getting at with this Instagram pic. But I'm not looking forward to a Crow remake. I think that they need to let that one rest for a while. The Rock calls out his male co-stars on Fast 8. The Rock posted an Instagram picture with the caption, "My male co-stars, however, are a different story." So this is halfway through his quote. "My male co-stars, however, are a different story. Some conduct themselves as stand-up men and true professionals, while others don't. The ones that don't are too chicken shit to do anything about it anyway. Candy asses." So he's pretty much calling out somebody on the Fast 8 set for either not putting forth the full effort, or The Rock having to carry them through a scene, or something. He's also elaborated that whenever we see the movie Fast 8 in theaters, if he seems like he's genuinely pissed off in scenes and not just acting, that's because he is. So, The Rock is very fucking angry about something. A lot of people are speculating that maybe it's Vin Diesel. I mean, it could be anybody on the set, but people are assuming it's Vin Diesel. It's hard to put yourself into their shoes unless you're actually on the set. But one thing I do know about Dwayne Johnson is that even if he's in a horrible movie, he puts 150% into it. He went so far out of his way to make sure that he played Hercules as good as he could play, and that movie was a fucking turd. So I believe that Dwayne Johnson would get irritated with people if he didn't feel like they were pulling their weight. And Vin Diesel, as much as I like him, as much as I like the Fast and the Furious movies, and as much as I like that character, he has gotten, no pun intended, very mechanical. He shows up, he says little speeches about family, he looks angry, and, he does his Vin Diesel thing, but his role doesn't really require a whole lot of acting, to be honest with you. I mean, let's just cut through the bullshit. So I could see him getting aggravated with Vin Diesel if Dwayne Johnson is going out of his way to do as much as he can as far as stunts and making these scenes intense, and Vin Diesel just shows up, says his lines, and goes back to his trailer. But like I said, this is all speculation. Dwayne then followed up his post days later with, "You guys reading this know how much I believe in the idea of team effort. That means respecting every person, their time, and their value when they step onto my set or partner with our production company. And like with any team, that's a family. There's going to be conflict. Family is going to have differences of opinion and fundamental core beliefs. To me, conflict can be a good thing when it's followed by great resolution. I was raised on healthy conflict and welcome it, and like any family, we get better from it. At the end of the day, me and Fast 8 co-stars all agree on the most important thing, delivering an incredible movie to the world." So, again, he's not calling out anybody specifically. He's not saying it's one of the actors. He's not really saying that, or he's not really saying that it's a specific actor, or if it's this, everybody's a collective, but just pretty interesting little piece of little piece of fighting there on the set of Fast 8. So I look forward to Fast 8. I think it's going to be something different. Hopefully, I was looking forward to James Wan doing something darker with the series, which he didn't really end up doing. I think Fast 7 was very, very good for the conditions that he had to deal with Paul Walker passing and everything. But I'm looking forward to seeing what F. Gary Gray is going to bring to Fast 8. Brad Pitt and Paramount Pictures are circling David Fincher to direct World War Z 2. So director J.A. Boyena dropped out, and Brad Pitt obviously has a good relationship with David Fincher. He starred in Fight Club. He starred in Seven. I liked World War Z okay. I didn't love it. It wasn't anything crazy different to me. I think that the CG shots of the zombies climbing over the walls was the only thing that was really unique about that movie. That movie was basically, okay, Brad Pitt's in the city, zombies come, he escapes. Brad Pitt's in Africa, zombies come, he escapes. Brad Pitt's on a plane, zombies come, he escapes. It was very basic to me. So I'm not clamoring for a sequel. I don't know what they're going to do with a whole other movie worth of storyline, and I honestly don't think David Fincher's a good fit for that. I'd be excited about the movie if David Fincher chose to do it because he's one of my favorite directors, but I don't see him doing a post-apocalyptic, big-budget, CG-fest zombie movie being something that David Fincher's going to be interested in. So I don't think that's going to fall through or come through, but we'll see. David Ayers come out and give meaning to the damage tattoo on Joker and says definitively who murdered Robin. So in Batman v Superman, we saw the little scene where Batman was walking through his Batcave and he stopped and looked at the Robin's armor and it had a graffiti on it with ha 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 ha, joke's on you, Batman. And for anybody that reads the comics, we know that's a little bit of an allusion to A Death in the Family, where the Joker beat Jason Todd to death. Whether or not it's going to actually be Jason Todd in the movie universe remains to be seen. They also showed a small little section in Suicide Squad at the beginning of the movie when they're introducing Harley Quinn, and they're giving her stats and her past crimes and everything. It says accomplice to the murder of Robin. So eventually they were going to have to get to who murdered Robin. Was it Harley Quinn? Was it Joker? And I mean, everybody pretty much assumed to be Joker, but now David Ayer is saying, yes, Joker murdered Robin, and like a lot of people were speculating when they saw the metal grill in the early pictures, Batman knocked all of his teeth out as retaliation. So Joker then viewed his beautiful, perfect self as damaged. So he got the damaged tattoo, and he put in the metal grill. So that is David Ayer's reasoning behind those little small pieces of the Joker. Not major news. I mean, a lot of people speculated that already before the movie came out, but good to actually have it confirmed. Antoine Fuqua is in talks with Universal to direct a reimagining of Scarface. Now, I love the Scarface with Al Pacino. I think a lot of people do. I've never seen the original one. I think from like the 1930s or something like that, whatever the original one was. They could do some interesting things with a reimagining of Scarface, but I don't know what they're going to do that's so new about it that they need to do it. I mean, Scarface is pretty much... That movie is so iconic, I don't see them, doing anything that's going to improve on what we got with Al Pacino. All they're going to do is bring it into modern day and try to do something more modern day and big budget with it. But if Antoine Fuqua is directing it, I will be more interested because he's a badass action director. I like most of his movies. He's got a really good directing style. So I'd be curious to see that. They've been kicking around the Scarface remake for quite a few years. Lord and Miller are looking to cast a young Lando Calrissian for their young Han Solo movie. So I've been talking about this movie a little bit. I'm curious what the story's going to be like now that they're talking about a young Lando Calrissian. I don't. Obviously, there's a lot of story with their early friendship that we haven't seen in the movies yet. So I don't know. Maybe this is going to be like a buddy cop kind of movie with Lando and young Han Solo, which I think Lord and Miller would do really well. They're the ones that did the 21 Jump Street, so if they can have kind of a comedic back and forth like they did in those movies, that'd be really good. I don't really have any suggestions for casting. I think, doing like a fantasy football casting is kind of pointless. As long as they get a good actor in there and the directors know what they want, they can get a good performance out of anybody. But I'm glad to see that they're casting Lando Calrissian for this movie, and I'm curious what that means as far as his overall place in the story, if he's just going to show up or if he's going to play a major role. Producer Dan Lin gives hints of what to expect from the currently shooting It remake. He came out and said, I think a great analogy is actually Stranger Things, and we're seeing it on Netflix right now. It's very much an homage to 80s movies where it's classic Stephen King or even Spielberg. Think about Stand By Me as far as the bonding amongst the kids, but there is really scary element in Pennywise. you're catching me at a really interesting time because we've been shooting mostly the kids' work, and now Pennywise is starting. We clearly had a great dynamic amongst the kids. Really great chemistry is always a challenging thing with a movie like it because you're casting kids who don't have a ton of experience, but it ended up being really natural. Each kid, like a Goonies or Stand By Me, has a very specific personality, and they're forming the Losers Club, obviously. And now, finally, the evil force is coming into our movie. We've spent a few months getting the kids to bond, and now they're going to fight this evil, scary clown. So I'm really excited for this It remake. I was very nervous whenever Cary Fukunaga left. He was the guy that did the first season of True Detective, because I thought that tone and that style would have been perfect for an It remake. However, it does sound like they have the right idea, especially if they're likening it to Stranger Things. Hopefully they're not just riding the coattails of everybody talking about that series right now. I loved Stranger Things. I think if they have that kind of tone and that kind of direction in this movie, that will be phenomenal. I think one of the kids from Stranger Things, or maybe even two of them, are actually cast in this movie, if I'm not mistaken. So they obviously are trying to take some pointers from what the Duffer Brothers did with that series. He also spoke on the casting of Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise. His build is really interesting. He's really tall and lanky and feels a little clown-like in his movement. When he came in, we had a lot of different actors read, and when he came in, he had a different spin on the character that got us really excited. You had Heath Ledger doing almost a clown Joker. You've obviously seen Tim Curry as a clown. We wanted someone who created a Pennywise character that would stand on its own, and Bill came in and created this character that frankly freaked us out. So I'm excited about that. I never watched Hemlock Grove. I believe Bill Skarsgård from that. Everybody that has seen it says that he's really fucking creepy in that. So if that guy brings something new to Pennywise, that is going to what is pretty much going to make or break this remake, because Tim Curry as Pennywise is the best part about that old 90s miniseries. I love it. It's nostalgic for me, but when you watch it now, it's not really all that great. There's a lot of problems, especially in the second half, but Tim Curry as Pennywise is what is iconic about that movie, so he's got some big shoes to fill. James Wan has come out and gives some information on his Mortal Kombat reboot. He's producing a reboot to the Mortal Kombat movies. He says, it's still cooking away with that particular project. That's a really cool property that I loved growing up as a kid. Besides the game, even the movies as well. I kind of enjoyed them for what they are. The key here is to try and do it right. I don't want to rush it, so right now we're just trying to take our time and make sure it's heading in the right direction. I think that's more important than trying to rush through it and pump up something that no one likes. The reboot is said to depart from the mythology of the games and the previous movies and have really brutally real martial arts in it. No director is currently set. So, again, just like the Aquaman, anything that James Wan is attached to and actually has thrown his passion into, I'm excited about because I like him a lot. I love the original Mortal Kombat movie. It's a guilty pleasure, but to date, that's still the most fun video game movie that's ever come out. The sequel is kind of garbage, but I haven't liked anything else they've done so far. I liked the little teaser, trailer that they kind of came up with, that little fan film years ago, but then when they actually made the little series, I didn't really like the direction they took with it. It wasn't as dark and as brutal as they were teasing with that little fan film. I think James Wan could do something cool with Mortal Kombat, and I think it's been long enough that if they did it now, it would be kind of a nice little resurgence. So looking forward to see what he's going to do with that. Ray Donovan has just been renewed for a 5th season. So Ray Donovan is a show that if you are not watching Ray Donovan, you should be watching Ray Donovan. It stars Liev Schreiber as Ray Donovan, the title character. He's got a great cast of people around him playing his family. You got Jon Voight playing his estranged father, who's one of the best parts of the show. They were both just nominated for Emmys. I think that's the 2 years in a row that they've been nominated for Best Lead Actor and Supporting Actor. Ray Donovan is phenomenal. It's awesome. It's hilarious. He basically is like a fixer for Hollywood. When people have like a big basketball player accidentally has a hooker overdose in his hotel room or something like that, he comes in and cleans up the scene, things of that nature. Jon Voight's a guy, his dad, at least this is all in the first episode, so I'm not trying to spoil further seasons for you. Jon Voight is his estranged father who was put away for 20-something years, and he just now got out. There's a lot of bad blood from Ray and his brothers for the Catholic Church. Like, they used to be altar boys, and there may or may not have been some molestation. There's some crazy stuff with that. It's an awesome fucking show. I need to get caught up on this current season. I'm trying to let it kind of get most of the way through so that I can binge watch it for the most part. But the first 3 seasons are all great. It's one of the best shows on TV. It's on Showtime. So, like I said, if you're not watching Ray Donovan, you should be, and get caught up before we now are getting a 5th season. So, awesome news. Bad Boys 3 has been retitled and pushed back to 2018. So, yet another sequel that's been tossed around for quite a few years, mostly waiting on Will Smith. I think Martin Lawrence has been dying to do this because this is his only real successful movie that he's done in a very long time, is the Bad Boys series. So, I think Will Smith is what's been holding this back for the most part. It's now going to be titled Bad Boys for Life, and is targeting January 12th, 2018 for a release date. So, interesting release date, 1, because it's my birthday, and 2, because a January release date is not a very confident release date. You know, I've talked about this before. January and February is usually the dumping ground when you think your movie's going to suck. So I wouldn't expect them to keep that release date. They also have a Bad Boys 4 that is slated for release July 3rd, 2019. So that sounds more like a Bad Boys release date, and I don't know. They're having so much trouble getting a Bad Boys 3 off the ground. It kind of shocks me that they're already planning a Bad Boys 4 a year later. So, kind of crazy. Joe Carnahan is set to direct this, which he's an awesome director. He's the one who did Smoking Aces, he did The Gray, he did The A-Team. Very cool guy. I'm curious to see how the movies are going to be different with Michael Bay not behind the camera, and Joe Carnahan's definitely the guy to do it, to bring something cool to it. So, look forward for Bad Boys for Life coming out 2018. Hopefully not in January. Jonah Hill has come out and cast doubts on the MIB 23 movie. So back when Sony had all these email hacks, you know, they were talking about their issues with the Spider-Man franchise and a lot of other things. One of the most interesting pieces of news that came out of those email hacks was that the Sony was tossing around the idea of crossing over the Men in Black series with the 21 Jump Street series, and the movie is going to be called MIB 23. And people were even more shocked whenever Sony came out and said that, yes, they actually are serious about this. That was not just an email, fallacy. This is real. And I've never liked the idea. I like the 21 Jump Street movies right where they are. I don't think they need to cross over with the Men in Black movies. I think the Men in Black movies have been there, done that. I don't see them doing anything new with those. I love the first one. I liked the third one. I hated the second one. I don't need any more Men in Black. The only thing positive about them doing it, if they do in fact do it, is that if it sucks, they can always make fun of it in the 4th 21 Jump Street movie, because of, how meta that movie is. But Jonah Hill came out and he said, I had the idea, but I doubt that movie will get made. They're trying to make all the deals, but it's kind of impossible with all the Men in Black stuff. The Jump Street films were so fun to make, and the whole joke of them was that they're making fun of remakes and sequels and reboots, and then now it's become a giant sequel reboot. It's almost become what we're making fun of, and it's hard to maintain that joke when it's so high stakes. And he's absolutely right. The genius of 22 Jump Street was that the whole time they were making fun of comedy sequels, doing the same plot over and over. And all the typical cliche things about comedy sequels, they turned it on its head and made it funny. So they can only do that for so long before the joke gets stale. So I hope this goes away. I hope they just let it rest for a while, and maybe they come back and do another 21, 22, 23, 24 Jump Street, whatever they're going to call it. So I'm hoping for another one of those. I think the MIB 23 needs to die. Rocko's Modern Life is set to return to Nickelodeon as a TV movie. So for those of you 90s kids out there, Rocko's Modern Life is a big part of our childhood. Rocko's Modern Life was my favorite cartoon growing up, along with the Batman animated series. It's very funny. Some of the things that they got away with putting in that cartoon is pretty shocking when you watch it nowadays. There's a lot of hidden adult humor in there. But they're starting to do a lot of revivals over at Nickelodeon. They got a Hey Arnold movie coming out. They got Legends of the Hidden Temple movie coming out. And now Rocko's Modern Life is the newest one. It's going to get an hour-long TV special. And they're probably just testing the waters to see if maybe they can revive some of these shows for today's kids. So I'm excited about that. I've always loved Rocko, so I'm curious to see what they're going to do with that one. The Flash Season 3 is set to bring back Gorilla Grodd for 2-episode arc, and the main villains have also been announced. So Gorilla Grodd was in the first 2 seasons in single episodes. Very cool villain. A lot of really interesting storylines there with like psychic abilities and stuff like that. He's one of the Flash's most famous villains, so I'm glad they're bringing him back for a bigger arc. And the two main villains have been announced as Dr. Alchemy and Savitar. And Savitar is apparently a speedster. Now, this brings up one of my few negatives with the Flash TV series, because I absolutely love that show. To me, they're starting to saturate that show with too many speedsters. You know, the Flash is supposed to be somebody very unique and somebody special, yet both of his main villains so far have been speedsters. He has friends who are speedsters. He's encountered minor villains that are speedsters. They're going to have Kid Flash in Season 3, who's going to be a speedster. And now one of the main villains is going to be a new speedster. So it's a little bit overdone with how many speedsters there are, and it makes the Flash seem a lot less unique and a lot less special. But I'm not familiar with those villains. I haven't read enough Flash comics, so hopefully that's something cool and unique. But that's what we had to look forward to with the upcoming Flash Season 3. Arrow Season 5 is set to have Dolph Lundgren play the main villain in their Russian flashbacks. So they're coming out saying that these Russian flashbacks are going to be the last time that they're going to do flashbacks in this show. They're going to have flashbacks focused on other characters now, which is one of my main problems with the past couple seasons, is that the flashback sides of the show have been really pointless in Season 3 and 4. The first two seasons, they worked really well. I really don't have any interest in Arrow anymore. It's really lost me. I don't know if I'm going to get caught up and give Season 5 a shot. I might wait to see what people are responding to it. If it comes out and they're saying that, Arrow has found its footing again, I might give it a shot. If everybody says this is more of the same and they're still kind of on a downward slope, then I might not give it a shot. But it's interesting that they're going to have a main villain in the Russian flashbacks. I don't really recall them having a villain necessarily in their flashbacks that wasn't attached to the main storyline. So something interesting there. Here's a pretty interesting piece of news that take it with a grain of salt. I don't know. It's not really overall confirmed yet. Nobody's come out saying that they wrote these letters, but there was a big open letter that's been making the rounds online, posted by somebody under the pseudonym of Gracie Law, which they took from Big Trouble Little China, claiming to be from an ex-WB employee, and the letter is directed at CEO Kevin Tsujihara and Zack Snyder. It could be fake, since the letter is so on the nose with some of the issues with the DCEU. It could just be a disgruntled employee firing back with whatever ammo they can think of throwing in there. But I thought it was interesting. The letter starts by expressing distaste for the DCEU films that we've received so far. It begins to throw a lot of shade at the supposed memo that Tsujihara sent out in response to a big 10% faculty layoff in 2014, which allegedly stated that all the layoffs were to provide their, what he called, world-renowned storytellers with more financial backing. I'm going to get into some of the specifics with this letter. You can read it online. Just search for, WB open letter, Kevin Tsujihara open letter, or whatever. You'll find it. It's making the rounds pretty heavily right now. But if this is true, this is what the letter is basically saying. It said, "This is how you opened a memo about layoffs. Hey guys, we work hard for the people telling stories here, and we want to make sure that those visions are realized. The ball's on you. That year, we pursued the storytelling vision of Adam Sandler's Blended and Clint Eastwood's Jersey Boys, Failures. We pursued a potentially great summer movie like Edge of Tomorrow and completely botched its release. Same with Man from U.N.C.L.E. We dug in our heels and hoped the Hobbit trilogy would somehow stop being a mediocre case of diminishing returns. Talented, loyal people packed their boxes and went home while your storytellers dropped the ball." It says that she withheld this letter, whoever wrote this, she withheld this letter upon announcement of Suicide Squad because she was thinking that maybe they righted their ship and David Ayer's involvement, but has now dusted it off after she saw Suicide Squad. She continued by saying, "And here we are. I got back from my screening and dusted this sucker off. You, your executive team, and the vision of your extraordinary storytellers that resulted in the loss of around 1,000 jobs seem intent on crashing the ship into as much shit as you can find in the ocean by making inane decisions over and over again. Zack Snyder is not delivering. Is he being punished? Assistants who were doing fantastic work certainly were. People in finance and in marketing and in IT, they had no say in a movie called Batman v Superman, only having 8 minutes of Batman fighting Superman in it. That ends because their moms have the same name. Snyder is a producer on every DC movie. He is still directing Justice League. He is being rewarded with more opportunity to get more people laid off. I'm assuming you yourself haven't been financially affected in any real way. You and your studio are the biggest lesson about life one can learn. The top screw-ups the top screws up and the bottom suffers. Peter Jackson phones it in, and a marketing supervisor has to figure out a plan B for house payments. Your uneven Hall H presentation at Comic-Con this year was a ridiculous mess that ranged from rushed to boring. When Marvel announced their full slate of films with a fun fan event several years ago, you announced yours on a shareholder conference call. You just don't get it. And it's not just DC movies, it's your whole slate. Jupiter Ascending, Get Hard, Hot Pursuit, Max, Vacation, Pan, Point Break. Fucking Pan, you jerk. People lost their jobs and you decided Pan was a good idea. You think another Jungle Book is a good idea. What are you even doing? I wish to God you were forced to live out of a car until you made a #1 movie of the year. Maybe Wonder Woman wouldn't be such a mess. And don't try to hide behind the great trailer. People inside are already confirming it's another mess. It's almost impressive how you keep rewarding the same producers and executives for making the same mistakes over and over. If I worked at a donut stand and I kept fucking up donuts, I'd be fired. Even if I made a tiny decent one every now and then, it doesn't matter. I'm going to get fired. I love that studio and you're allowing it to sink. It's not about making movies for the fans and not the critics. It's not even about ruining childhoods. It's about protecting livelihoods. It's time to wake up and make the fucking donuts, Kevin. So, very abrasive letter. Like I said, it's very on the nose. It could be fake. Somebody might just be ruggedly pissed off about DCEU and just pulling everything that they can think of to lash out at WB and phrasing it from the point of view of an ex-employee. But it's interesting enough to entertain the idea that maybe this person is real. Patty Jenkins, who's directing the Wonder Woman movie, came out and responded with some tweets as well. She wrote, "Whoa, just saw this press about Wonder Woman having problems. Are they serious? This is some made-up BS right there. Made up. Produce a source. Anyone. Zero about the movie we are making has been called a mess by anyone in the know. Fact." So, very interesting letter. They do say a lot of things that hold true, whether or not this is a real person or not, about, as much as I like Zack Snyder, if he's not delivering, people don't appreciate what he's doing with the universe, he shouldn't be given more power and more movies. So that is true. They have had a lot of really big fuck-ups with their movies, with, the Hobbit trilogy not being that great, Jersey Boys, Blended. They've definitely screwed up Edge of Tomorrow's marketing campaign, because that's one of the best action movies to come out in years, and the marketing campaign for that was a fucking bomb. Jupiter Ascending, Get Hard, Hot Pursuit, all those movies, Pan, the Point Break remake, and they're supposed to be doing another Jungle Book movie after this one just came out of Disney and blew everybody's minds. They're still trying to do another one here in a year or so, directed by Andy Serkis, which is going to be completely different. So there are some concerns that they're bringing up that's definitely true, and it does make for some interesting conversation about whoever's making the decisions over at WB. But we'll have to see if maybe this thing ever gets confirmed. Now moving on to trailer talk, guys. We've got a few good ones here. Mr. Church. Now this was a really interesting trailer. This is set to come out September 16th of this year. It's directed by Bruce Beresford. Stars Eddie Murphy, Britt Robertson, and Natasha McElhone. Mr. Church tells the story of a unique friendship that develops when a little girl and her dying mother retain the services of a talented cook, Henry Joseph Church. What begins as a 6-month arrangement instead spans 15 years and creates a family bond that lasts forever. This looks like a really major, out-of-left-field role for Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy has been struggling to be relevant again since the early 90s. He's been sticking to really childish, corny humor movies. He did Dreamgirls, and he got an Oscar nomination for that, but that's about all the dramatic, leaps that he's made. Now, this looks like it could be something where he could really shine in. He looks like he's very grounded. He might have a little humor here and there, but he looks like he's a very serious character, and he's played for emotions. Now, this could be very sappy, or it could be something really sweet. Now, this is the director of Driving Miss Daisy, so if it sticks more to Driving Miss Daisy, we might be hearing about Mr. Church when it comes for Oscar season, something like that, possibly. I'd like to see Eddie Murphy resurge. If he gets some good footing in the dramatic stuff, maybe he'll get some better roles where he can explore his comedy again. But very cool trailer. If you check it out, it looks like I said, something really different for Eddie Murphy. Resident Evil: The Final Chapter released its first trailer finally. This is supposed to come out January 27th of next year. Directed again by Paul W.S. Anderson, starring, of course, Mila Jovovich, Ali Larter, Ruby Rose, Ian Glenn, and Sean Roberts, amongst some others. The story is picking up immediately after the events in Resident Evil Retribution. Humanity is on its last legs in Washington, D.C. As the only survivor of what was meant to be humanity's final stand against the undead hordes, Alice must return to where the nightmare began, Raccoon City, where the Umbrella Corporation is gathering its forces for a final strike against the only remaining survivors of the apocalypse. In a race against time, Alice will join forces with old friends and an unlikely ally in an action-packed battle with undead hordes and new mutant monsters. Between regaining her superhuman abilities at Wesker's hand and Umbrella's impending attack, this will be Alice's most difficult adventure as she fights to save humanity, which is on the brink of oblivion. Now, I have kind of a love-hate relationship with Resident Evil, the movies. I don't really think any of them are good. However, they're like the definition of guilty pleasure. I can enjoy the first one. I like the second one. The third one's decent. I like the fourth one a lot more than most people. However, the fifth one was fucking horrendous. Everything about that movie was bad. Leon Kennedy was garbage. The enemies were garbage. That movie was absolutely pointless. So I'm on a low point with this series right now, and I don't know if the final chapter, if this is in fact the final chapter, is going to bring me out of that. All that being said, this trailer is fucking garbage. They cut Guns N' Roses' Paradise City in. They absolutely butchered the song, which is a song that I'm sick of hearing anyway. It's edited like shit. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. It gives you a headache trying to watch it. There's no hints of the story. It's just a lot of quick cuts of action, shooting, spinning around, CGI monsters, a bunch of ridiculousness. Now, there's an international trailer that's a little bit more focused, that's better. If you're going to watch a trailer, definitely watch that one. But the fact that this is what they're trying to release here in the U.S. to get us excited about the last Resident Evil movie, talk about a giant fucking mistake. I mean, that trailer is horrendous. So, I don't know how to feel about this movie yet. January release date, again, like I've said before, that means that they know the movie is not going to be very good. I don't know. I'm ready for them to reboot this series and stick to the story of the video games and make it more horror focused and not just an action movie. So we'll see with this last one. Arrival. Now this is coming out November 11th. This is directed by Denis Villeneuve. He's the guy who did most recently Sicario, and he did Prisoners. It's going to be starring Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner, and Forrest Whitaker. And the story is it's taking place after alien crafts land around the world. An expert linguist is recruited by the military to determine whether they come in peace or are a threat. Now, this was just a teaser, and this pretty much just gave you an idea of the tone of the movie and how good the visuals are going to be. Now, if Villeneuve is directing it, you know the visuals are going to be great, because that was one of the best things about Sicario, was the cinematography, the visuals, everything like that. So it looks like it's going to be a very good-looking movie. It sounds intriguing, but it's too early to tell if the story is going to be interesting or not. Like I said, this is a teaser. This does not give you really much of the story. So keep an eye out for the first actually trailer of Arrival. Bad Santa 2. Now, we had a teaser on a couple episodes ago that I talked about. Now, this finally is a full trailer. This is coming out November 23rd. It's directed by Mark Waters, who directed Mean Girls, starring Billy Bob Thornton, Kathy Bates, and Tony Cox. And like I said with the teaser, it holds true here. This looks to be just what fans of the first one are wanting, which I was not one of them. I'm one of the few people who did not care for Bad Santa. This looks like the same humor. There's probably going to be the same raunchy, over-the-top, profanity-fueled humor. However, the scene that they showed between Billy Bob Thornton and Kathy Bates, who's playing his mom, they could have some really great back and forth, because Kathy Bates I absolutely love. And she doesn't do comedy very often, but I could see Billy Bob Thornton and her having a lot of just profanity-fueled back and forth that could be some really golden stuff. But give the trailer a chance if you or a look if you're a fan of Bad Santa. You'll probably get excited because this is going to be more of what you love. Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, coming out December 16th. Now, it's directed by Gareth Edwards, who directed Monsters, and he directed that most recent Godzilla movie. Stars Leslie Jones, Forrest Whitaker, Diego Luna, and Donnie Yen. And the story of this one is following the foundation of the Galactic Empire. A wayward band of rebel fighters come together to carry out a desperate mission to steal the plans for the Death Star before it can be used to enforce the Emperor's rule. So this is the first of these side stories that we're going to be getting every other year in between the main saga movies of Star Wars. This trailer, they released a trailer of sorts before, so this is really the first major trailer. The other one was more of a teaser, featurette, whatever you want to call it. I'm still not a fan of the title change. I think Star Wars Rogue One is a much better sounding title. Rogue One, a Star Wars story, I'm not a fan of. The effects look phenomenal. If Gareth Edwards is directing it, you knew at least the effects were going to be great, because the effects were really good in Monsters, and the effects were really good in Godzilla, 2 movies that I did not care for very much. It looks like a war movie set in the Star Wars universe. This does not feel like a continuation of The Force Awakens. This feels like a different story altogether, which is what they're going for. The music was really good. They had kind of a slowed down, more a different mix of the Imperial March. However, the music had such a sound of like impending doom and darkness that it prevented the lighthearted scenes that they stuck in this trailer from really coming through. There's a few jokes here and there, but they don't feel like jokes because you have that dark music behind it. It just feels like a dark trailer for a very dark movie the whole time. It doesn't feel like it's going to have levity in it. They showed another dick tease with Darth Vader. With the little teaser trailer, you heard his breathing at the end of it. Now this one, you hear his breathing and you see him for literally 2 seconds, the back of his head, which I don't know why they're teasing Darth Vader. I think they need to put him, not necessarily focus all the marketing on him, but he needs to be a decent piece of the marketing, because one, that's going to be something that's going to get a lot of people in the theaters if they have the most iconic villain from Star Wars coming back in this movie. And two, which is my main negative with this trailer, is that it's going to help the confusion. They're still not showing the story of the movie in the trailer. The only reason I know what the story is because I've been following this movie since it was announced. The story just makes it look like another Star Wars, or the trailer just makes it look like another Star Wars movie. And I feel like people who aren't major Star Wars fans are going to walk out of this trailer thinking, well, that's a weird place to go from The Force Awakens. Why did they recast Rey? I've heard people actually say that. Why did they recast Rey? Who's this new girl? So they're not showcasing that this is a story taking place before the first Star Wars movie. They're not showcasing that. They need to put Darth Vader in the front of that and really showcase his agenda with the Emperor and the building of the Death Star and everything, so that people can understand, oh, okay, this is a prequel to the first Star Wars movie. This is not Star Wars Episode 8. This is something completely different. So I think that's the only thing that they're dropping the ball with so far, is really solidifying where the story fits in the timeline for people who aren't Star Wars fanatics. But I'm going to see this movie regardless. I'm very excited for it. Allied is the next trailer that I want to talk about. So Allied is going to be coming out November 23rd. This is directed by Robert Zemeckis, and it stars Brad Pitt and Marion Cotillard. And it follows the story of intelligence officer Max Vitan, who's played by Brad Pitt, who in 1942 North Africa encounters French resistance fighter Marianne Boussigeau. I'm screwing that name up, I know I am, but Marion Cotillard's character, on a deadly mission behind enemy lines. Reunited in London, their relationship is threatened by the extreme pressures of the war. Now, Robert Zemeckis is an awesome director. This is the guy who brought us Forrest Gump. He brought us Castaway, movies of that nature. So he always delivers pretty good stuff. Brad Pitt and Marion Cotillard always deliver pretty good stuff. This trailer looks interesting. However, it's very hard to get a feel for what the movie is. Is this a romance movie? Is it a war movie? Is it an espionage movie? Is it a combination of all three? It looks intriguing, but I don't know what to expect from it yet. I don't know what I'm trying to be sold. You know what I mean? I don't know what audience this is trying to target. So I'm going to look out for another trailer for this, but Robert Zemeckis, Brad Pitt, and Marion Cotillard, those three names put together in a movie is enough to get me interested. So give the trailer a shot and let me know what you guys think. What direction it's going to take. Is this romance, war, espionage, something else? But interesting trailer. Well, that's all I got for this episode, guys. Pretty lengthy one. I tried to keep it pretty fast paced since I have some very long episodes lately. As always, go ahead and like and subscribe below on SoundCloud and YouTube. Leave any comments, questions, or your own opinions on these stories down in the comment section on Facebook, YouTube, or SoundCloud. You can also find me on Twitter using the hashtag the Cody Leach Podcast. Like I said, look forward to obviously your top 5 episode coming out Wednesday, and the first episode of our Alter Ego show with Anthony Arviso on Friday, where we talk all things comic books, debate things, do something very cool. So it should be a good breath of fresh air for my channel. Also, I've started doing retro reviews, which my first retro review was aired this weekend, along with my first Green Room episode, which is a music-based show, and the Loading Screen, which I premiered on Friday. So post anything, questions, video game related or music related that I can add to those shows. Go ahead and check those out. I think you guys will enjoy them, and go ahead and send me some suggestions for more retro reviews. That's going to be my section where I take viewer submitted movies, hopefully older movies, but you can send me things that are pretty recent if you want to. And I go back and I review them in kind of a different style. You know, I talk about what I think about the movie, obviously, but I also, assuming I've seen the movie before, I add in like my own memories or experiences with the movie, like how I first saw it, things of that nature. I'll put in some fun facts about the movie. I'll look on IMDb and some different websites and try to find some cool stories to throw in there. I'll talk about my favorite scenes and do something a little bit different, and something just to kind of break up the monotony a little bit and have some fun. So go ahead and send in some of those ideas for any movies you guys want to hear me talk about, and I will see you on Wednesday with our top 5.